A beautiful morning to you out there. This is the 5th of June. I'm so excited to bring to you the favorite program on television. This is the Breakfast Cafe. And I am Olumide Shokoya, looking all black and looking sharp. I'm not the only one looking sharp this morning. Another pretty lady, melanin popping I call her, is looking sharp this morning. Please welcome Sarah Wunsu.
It's how you consistently make me feel like a queen. So yes. If you see me out there and you do not call me melanin popping, we're going to have a problem.
Yes.
Because Olumide has already established that fact. Welcome to the program. Like Olumide said, it is Wednesday, the 5th of June, 2024. And we are super excited to bring you all the juice and all the details. I am Sarah Owusu-Ansah.
We'll be looking at a very important topic in today's segment. And the topic is minimum wage way forward. Joining us via Zoom is Gbolahan Olojede. He's a public affairs analyst. Good morning, and many thanks for joining us on the program.
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be on the program.
Good morning, Gbolahan Olojede. Let's delve straight into the business of the day. Just yesterday, we got the report as to how Labour suspended the strike for 5 days to have time to renegotiate to the tripartite committee, and we're hearing 60,000 naira, 100,000 naira away from the 494,000 naira that Labour, was putting on the table. We'd like to get your perspective on all of this. What is the implication now if the minimum wage is increased beyond what we have now, even beyond the 60,000 naira? What is the implication of this on our economy? And in your thoughts, how much you think is sustainable to be pegged as the minimum or living wage for Nigerians across the country?
Okay, so I guess yesterday we were talking about 490 vis-a-vis 60,000. We actually started much further. We started from 1 million. Labour had insisted on 1 million. From 1 million, they came to 650. From 650, they came to 490 or 494. Federal government is offering 60,000. Obviously, the rigors, there are no rigors on the part of Labour in determining what they actually want or what the figure should be. If there were rigors into determining where we want to go, then you can't be shifting from 1 million to 600 to 400. Maybe at the end of the day, you end up in 75,000. That's one part. On the other part, I'm not aware of any country that waits for 10 years before minimum wages are amended. I can't remember when last we moved to 30,000. Maybe it was during Mr. Jonathan's government. The problem with that in an environment where inflation is high is that it becomes almost impossible for you to want to move from 30,000 to 400,000. It is literally impossible. But if what we have been doing is that we have a fixed period within which we decide to talk about adjustment, minimum wage, and all of that, the system itself will have adjusted over those years. Maybe what we'll be doing right now is maybe moving from 90 to 100. Or 100 to 110. Those are easier to manage than when you ask an economy to absorb the shock of moving minimum wage from 30,000 to 490,000. I don't think it has happened anywhere in any part of the world that minimum wage is moved 101,500% at a go. The implication is grave for the economy. What you're doing is you're pumping cash into that economy without any adjustment to the production capacity of the economy. We're not producing. But at the same time, you are pumping that much cash, or you want to pump that much cash into the economy. What will happen when you do that? The inflation that we have been trying to fight will become massively aggravated again. In fact, even at 70,000 or whatever we eventually land, I can assure you that within 3 months of that increase, many of the workers will get a rent increase notification from their landlord. The market woman also heard it, that your salary has now been increased. All service providers have heard it, that you are now earning more. And they will demand for their own share of that additional money that you are earning. especially if we move from 30,000 to some dramatically large amount. So we need to get more systematic about how we approach issues of wages. We need to be willing to put in the rigors to arrive at what we think the minimum wage should be. We also need to do things more regularly, not waiting for 10 years and expecting that you can actually move people's payment by 1,500%. It doesn't happen anywhere.
So in your perspective, Bola Olojede, what amount do you think, you're also a business and economic expert, based on the current economic realities, and you just mentioned that if this is moved to a very ridiculous amount of money, we will see an increment in everything, rent, market women, and all of that. So putting all of these factors into consideration, what amount do you think that the federal government should peg as the minimum wage for the country and would still work for us as a nation?
Well, as it is now, maybe anything in the neighborhood of that 60 and 75,000. Some people think 100. I think 100 is even going to be stressful on the economy.
How so?
I would say maybe a cap of 100. But you see, the real issue we should be dealing with is not pumping cash. It is dealing with what eroded the value of that money that we have. So that we can have a combination of things. We increase the minimum wage a bit, and then we fix all those other things that we spend this money on. So a part of our fight should be, the energy cost has increased dramatically. Let's fight for the CNG option, for something to be done in that range, so that what I spend my money on, which includes energy, I will spend less to consume energy. Food is a major problem. So let's challenge the government. What can we do in the space of food? So that instead of food taking away 70% of my income, it can only take 30% of the income away. So all those other things, education, I can assure you school fees will increase by the time that new minimum wage comes. Education, healthcare, the cost of drugs is prohibitive. All those things are issues we spend money on. And if we can address them along with a modest increase in minimum wage, we will get a better result. Yes.
All right, sir. I know that also, if you look at it, let's move away from the minimum wage. Now, the Labour have also put forward living wage. And some experts have even said that instead of us focusing on minimum wage, why not let's focus on living wage? Let's consider this, just like you rightly said, the standard of living right now. Let's put that into factor and see how we can come up with an amount that would equal to the living wage. How, based on how much is a bag of rice, how much is a bag of gari, how much is rent, how much is this, and let's factor all that in and say, so what is the amount based on the current prices right now? So do you think the federal government should be focusing or shifting focus to living wage instead of minimum wage?
There is still a lot of work to be done for us to arrive at whatever we can call a living wage. Part of this are what I mentioned in my earlier comments. So you've mentioned the price of food, the cost of energy. So we can decide to say, because cost of food is so much now, because of bag of rice is this much, cost of a liter of petrol is this much. Therefore, this is how much that living wage should be. We can also ask the question, now, why is the price of rice that much? Is there an intervention that could bring that price of rice further down? Is there an intervention that could bring my per capita energy cost down? If it comes down, then what should be the minimum, what should be the living wage that is able to capture all of that for us? So it involves more rigors than we are putting on the table right now. And living wage is the way to go ultimately, but we are going to have to put in the works. Dropping numbers from, pulling it from under the hat, 1 million to 650 to 490 to whatever, does not show rigors in what we have done, and it will not lead us anywhere. So if we get past the minimum wage as it is right now, so that at least we can proceed, then we need to go back to the table and fix all those other issues that are distorting this matter, and we can now start discussing the living wage in reality. You even have labor in itself. I just want to put another thing in that perspective. Refineries. Members of NLC have been in those refineries receiving salary for decades, knowing that those refineries are not producing anything.
Yeah.
What exactly have they done as a fight towards ensuring those refineries are working? Fighting for government to put those refineries in operation will have today reduced the cost of living that we are shouting about if those refineries are producing.
Right. So you just talked about the refinery. I was going to ask you before you mentioned it. Earlier you said, which is a reality, once the minimum wage is increased, we'll see an increment in everything. What are some of the strategies, aside the refineries functioning? The Port Harcourt refinery has been in the talks for a long time. It was set to start operation in December last year. We didn't see anything. I think it was pegged to June this year again. We've not really heard anything. Aside the refineries, being rehabilitated and functioning again, what are some of these other strategies or measures that you would advise or propose to the government to look into to ensure that we are internally generating revenue and the cost of living is commensurate to the minimum wage, so we are not earning 100% and using 90% to buy foodstuffs, electricity, gas, and what have you?
Okay, some of these measures have been mentioned over and over again by several commentators. If you look at Nigeria's inflation curve, you will see food inflation as a key driver of our cost of living crisis. The cost of food is prohibitive. And if you go to the market now and you price tomatoes or pepper, you will be shocked at the kind of prices that we are having in the market. So it's ridiculous. So if we already know that food is a critical driver of the inflation we are experiencing, and that this inflation predicament is part of what is putting pressure on our wages. So we should simply find ways to intervene in that food arena. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying it's plain vanilla, but if we have identified a problem, can we mobilize resources? We have 200 million people in this country, for crying out loud. There must be some sort of intervention, fiscal, intervention that we can do to ensure that we drive down the price of food, to ensure that we're able to produce more food, to ensure that we improve the security environment for farmers to be able to go into the farms and do more, to ensure that all the infrastructure that tend to food production, from storage to electricity to transportation from the centers of production to the market, all those things are tended to, so that we can bring down those prices. I can assure you today that if we're able to deal with food inflation, we will moderate our inflation figure. In fact, I dare say that the inflation curve will inflect if we're able to moderate food prices today. So why don't we start from food? Why don't we come to energy?
All right, shortly before we go, you mentioned the inflation curve. I want to also seek your input in this area. A lot of people have complained about cost of governance, and I think one of the issues that angered the Labour Congress was so many reports. I mean, just today we got a report about over 900
billion naira
for refreshments from 30 governors. These are some of the things that is really making Nigerians wonder that, is it true that the government cannot actually afford what the NLC is requesting, or is it cost of governance that has choked the whole economy?
Okay, I totally agree with the position of many Nigerians, that we need to look at the cost of governance. It's also part of what, psychologically batters the people, because they hear numbers of how government is spending money. So when you say we don't have the money, they are saying, what about all these ones you're wasting? And it is a valid point. When you're asking people to make sacrifice, they need to see that you're also making those sacrifices. Nigerians are not seeing enough of that as we speak today. From 90,000 to 90 billion to subsidize people going for pilgrimage and all those other funny things. We need to deal with those matters. However, let me also mention that the personnel cost, you can pull up the budget, the federal government budget, and see the personnel cost for civil servants vis-a-vis, say, the entire budget of the National Assembly. The entire budget of the National Assembly does not come near what the implication of 490,000 minimum wage would do to the personnel cost of this country. It is in trillions that we're talking about. Yeah.
Right. All right, thank you very much, Bola Olojede. We do appreciate your time. We do appreciate your input. Thank you for joining the program this morning, and we do hope to hear from you some other time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Yes, quite an interesting one there. He gave a lot. He talked about, how, and I think what I like about his own input is how we should not just focus on minimum wage alone. Let's tackle the root. Let's look at food prices.
That's
Let's look
the reality.
At things.
If we don't tackle these things, we are increasing the minimum wage and we're not feeling the effect.
Yes.
So we are still going back to where we are coming from. And then next week, we hear that the minimum wage is too minute. We need to increase it because money is not, we're earning 100%, we're using 80% or 90% for foodstuffs, electricity tariff.
Landlords are waiting.
So that's also another aspect to it.
All right, let's quickly go on a short break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.